Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. This is the very first video that I'm going to be posting on here. I'm looking forward to making a lot more videos in the future. Today we're going to start with a deck that's near and dear to my heart. Vinsmoke Reiju was my very first deck that I ever learned how to play. This is how I got into the game. This deck has been consistent throughout all the locals that I've been to, and I've won many, I've gone 4-0 in many, and I just want to do a little showcase of what my deck's looking like right now. And we're going to watch a couple of clips of me playing on the sim. We have a really cool Doflamingo game that we're going to see at the end that just shows how this deck actually can perform against these top meta decks. So to start off, we got 4 copies of Kaya. People like to run different 2Ks in this deck. People tend to opt for more Ginas, and less Kayas, and even run no Kayas at all, but I personally like this card. It's especially good in being able to get our bigger bodies like Niji, Ichiji, and Reiju into our trash while maintaining a hand size, as well as being a 2K. This is especially helpful early game when we want to see some of these smaller bodies while having our bigger bodies in our trash. Second is our 2 copies of Pudding. This is just good in managing our opponent's hand size. It's a very common blue card. And these are the only 2 blue cards that I run in the deck. It's mostly all purple. You can tech in some other cards to manage hand size and stuff like that, but I think Pudding is just very substantial and very a staple hand controller. Then is our 4 copies of Ichiji, both big and small. These are your core key components of this deck. It's just very important to have these cards. These make or break the deck. If you can't see these in a game, it's a little bit tough, but the way I run my deck is a lot of searching, so you really dig through your deck to find these pieces. Second is 2 copies of this Judge. This Judge, as you'll see in the Doflamingo game that we play, it definitely does add a big hindrance for opponents being able to flood the board so easily, as well as getting multiple swings in from Ichiji's. I only run it as a 2 of because it is a no counter card, and throughout the game you're not going to find yourself at 8 Don as much as you're going to see yourself at 4 or 5, which is consistently where I find myself at during these games. Against the Doflamingo, or against a character that I know is going to be able to just grind me out and just knock down these life points, I like to conserve until I can get to this Judge, because if I can just flood the board and they just don't have enough defense to deal with me, it's going to be tough for them. Next is these Vinsmoke Soras. These Vinsmoke Soras are a great 2K counter. That's really all I use them for. It's a searchable 2K, but it also is able to grab you one of the baby Ichijis, the baby Reijus, the baby Nijis back from your graveyard in a pinch. You're not really going to be using this ability that much. It's mostly just a searchable 2K, but that is an option. Second, I'm running 2 copies of the Niji, both big and small. This card I've seen it come in and out of a lot of deck lists. I prefer to run it as a 2 of because its ability to KO a 2 cost or less is great for popping blockers, and it's actually really good in the Doflamingo matchup, being able to return a 4 cost to the opponent's hand. This limits their ability to use their Jinbeis as effectively, because I can just send that other 4K that they summon right back to their hand. 4 copies of both the Reijus. Again, very staple card in this deck. In a turn where you have 5 cards in hand, it'll allow you to draw 3 in addition to the leader ability. So you'll be able to draw 2 from this card, and then 1 from the leader ability, which is great for just boosting your hand and just generating a large amount of cards in your hand, which is what Reiju is mostly known for. Now we're getting on to our Foxy Pirates. We have 2 copies of Gina. This is mostly in here to just have a searchable 2K off the Porsche Don -1 ability. It is really just going to be used for that. You can run a couple of other 2Ks. I run this at 2 just because I'm really focused on the Vinsmoke package, but this is definitely a very good card to be able to search off the Porsche. 4 of these choppers. These choppers are great. They bring Dawn back and allow you to really set up for turns. There's definitely a point in one of these games that we're going to watch that I play this chopper, and it allows me to get to 6 Dawn so that I can go to 8 Dawn next turn to play this Vinsmoke Judge, which is very crucial to that game plan of that certain game. Porsche. This is a very, very great card in this deck list. people may think, oh, it's a Foxy Pirate, it doesn't match with the leader as well, but the ability to play a 4,000 power purple character from hand is amazing, because you can play this Porsche for only 3 Don and have a 3 Don 5 power ability character out on your field, as well as dropping a Vinsmoke EGG, Vinsmoke Reiju, or Vinsmoke Niji for free, being able to Don minus again with him and get a 7 cost 7k out on the board with Rush if you use the Ichiji, or draw your entire hand back with your Reiju, or even send back some of the opponent's characters or KO some of the opponent's characters with the Niji. So you can get 10 Don worth of play for only 3. It's an amazing card. Some of our searchers, Gurma66, just going to be a little, either a pitch card for the next card we're going to talk about, or stage, but it also allows you to search for your larger characters, or your Vinsmoke characters that can get you to where you want to be in the game. Once OP10 comes out, this card is definitely going to be replaced with the new OP10 Sanji. That card is basically the same thing, except it gives you a 1k counter in hand. It's great. It's definitely going to be replaced with that, but for now we're running this just to give her a little more searching power so we can dig through our deck and find our bigger characters. And then there's our stage, which this stage is also a crucial fundamental plan. This allows you to get your large bodies like Vinsmoke Niji, Vinsmoke Ichiji, and Vinsmoke Reiju into your trash and search for these smaller versions of these cards. Like I said, the Gurma66 can be a little pitch for this card, but otherwise you're going to be pitching the big characters or other stages to find these smaller characters to then play out those big characters from your trash. My one tech option that I put into this was the Trafalgar Law. This card, not a lot of people see it in this deck list because it's not searchable by a Porsche or any of the Gurma cards, but I think it's just a great card to have in here as a blocker. 5k blocker is great, but on its on play Don -2, it allows me to, if my opponent has 7 or less cards in their hand, trash 2 cards from their hand. This is amazing for controlling my opponent's hand size, not only getting rid of some crucial cards that they have, because it is a trash ability, but it is 2 cards that my opponent cannot control what they lose. So it's not like Pudding, where yes, they can't control what they lose, but it does go back to their deck and they do have a chance of playing it again. This immediately sends it to trash so that it cannot be used. In a situation where you're going against a black deck like Blackbeard or Lucci, yes, it could be a little bit of a detriment, but decks that love their hand size, like Enel, like Reiju even, in the mirror, this is a great card for the mirror when they have a lot of cards in their hand, because they can't control. You could just pitch 2 of their babies. I just think it's a very good tech card, and it's great for the game plan of the entire deck. So now we're gonna get into the videos. So we have this first video against Purple Luffy. This is my most recent. We're going to see a lot of different ways that you can counter his ability to go with a wide board with that Luffy Taro and that other stuff. So let's get into watching this, and I'll kind of explain my thought process on it. So he obviously picks first. That's going to be given for a Luffy that's given the choice. So we mulligan our hand. He plays out a Law and draws that Zorojiro, which is obviously going to be great for his 3 Don turn, where he'll be able to ramp that Don. So looking at this, we're probably just going to Gurma 66 here and look. We're going to see what we get. We're just going to grab the stage right there. We're giving up that Ichiji, but we know we can find more with this stage, and it's going to be a little more crucial to our game plan. And pitching that big Niji, since we have a little Niji in hand, amazing play. Going over to his turn, we're obviously probably going to see a ramp here, grabbing that life to play that Zorojiro down. That card is amazing for this deck. Lets it search and is a 4 cost 6k body. Amazing. But we do have that Vinsmoke Niji in hand. And that Vinsmoke Niji is going to allow us to send that card right back to his hand, which is, he's not going to like it. Yes, it would allow him to search again, but it limits the amount of attacks that we are going to take. We take this first life. We don't really want to expend the cards to counter out right now. We're still kind of getting our footing here. We find the big Ichiji, which is great off that Gurma Kingdom search. We're going to swing 6 at lead. Hopefully either take a 2k out of hand, or he's going to take this, putting them down to low life. 3 life is great, because that means if he does want to ramp to 7, he does have to take a life. But we're going to see him counter out with the Kamazo, and now we're going to play that Niji to send that Zorojiro back to hand, and then pass it over to him. He is going to be at 6 Don now, so we are in Luffy Taro range if he uses a little leader ability, as you can see. So he's going to probably use the leader ability right here. He's most likely going to swing 5 at lead first, I believe is what he does. Yep, there's that 5K swing at lead. We are going to counter out of this with this Tony Chopper. We were thinking about the Gina first, but then we saw the Tony and we were like, gotta get rid of that. Now he's going to drop that Luffy Taro down. Yep, exactly as I said. I thought he was going to play down the Jirojiro, maybe get another search, but he did have that Sangoro in hand, which is great for maintaining their hand size, drawing cards whenever it attacks. So we're going to see a little search. We're going to pitch that big Ichiji, grab another little one. Looks like we're going to probably swing 5 with lead first. Okay. And we're probably going to attach it down to Niji and swing 7. We're going to just see if we can pick off either cards in hand, because 5K swing gets 1 card out of hand. That's great. Or it takes a life. So we're going to see one. So we got the Furnosa. We got a 2K out of hand, which is crucial to know. So now we know that he either has cards that he wants to keep, or he only has 2Ks. So we're going to swing another 7. Hopefully make him take a life. I do believe he counters out of this here with a 2K, 1K. But we do have that Ichiji in hand, so we will be able to get another 7K rush swing into this leader. So let's see what he does. Yes, he 2K, 1Ks with the Kamazo and Onami. So now we're going to drop this Ichiji, Don -1, play this Ichiji, and we're going to be able to rush down while drawing a card from our leader ability, which whenever we Don minus, we draw a card. I do believe he takes this, which is great for us. Yep, he takes it. And he's at 5 cards in hand right now. So we are under a little threat right now because he does have 3 swings on board, not including the law. When this Sangoro does swing, he is going to draw a card, which that's a little scary. Right now, we do have a lot of counter in hand. We have 2 2Ks, 1K, 1K, 1K. We don't want to get rid of the Ichiji as much, but the Vinsmoke Reijus we can part with right now. As of right now, my biggest worry is that they're just going to clear my board. Reiju likes to have a board. We need to be able to go toe for toe with their swings, so being able to keep these characters on board is crucial to our game plan. So they're going to swing 7 at my Niji. That's probably the smart play because we can get another rush character off that Ichiji if they were to KO it. So we're going to just toss a 2K to that. Sounds great. Looking at their Don right now, they do have 7 Dons, so that's making me wary of another Luffy Taro play. But we are going to counter out of this one too. 2K, 1K with the Reiju, and just keep our board alive. Keeping this board alive is crucial to our game plan. So now I'm looking at, okay, swinging 5. I don't think he does end up making the swing, but if he did, we're looking at a Luffy Taro play. I do think he attaches 2 to his leader. Once he attached 2, the Luffy Taro play is out of the question because he does not have that 7 Don to play. If he did have there's that 2 Don attached. If he did have that Luffy Taro, it's definitely a lot scarier for me. I do think we let this go. We don't really want to get rid of both of these cards in hand. We don't think it's necessary to our game plan right now. And he doesn't have another swing to take out our Ichiji, which is another worry. If he did have another swing to take out the Ichiji, I think I would have countered out of that. But we like to see that. So we're probably just going to search with pitching that stage, like I said, and grab another Ichiji. That's great for us. We just get to keep rushing it down, but we unfortunately don't have a large Ichiji in our trash. We do end up finding the Reiju to draw 3. That draw 3 is great. We just went from 4 cards to 7 cards in hand with only a 2 Don investment. So looking at our hand, we don't really have much to play right now. So we're probably going to search. Yep, we're just going to do a search. Unfortunately, don't find anything. We do find a 2K, so we're just going to bring that to hand. But looking at the counter in our hand, what's going through my mind is, do we just want to try taking these life? He only has 4 swings on board. I just have to counter out of one of them if he's going for lethal, and then I'll have 3 swings on board to try and take him out. So I'm looking at my board right now, and I think I'm just going to swing 7 with the Ichiji. Yep, and there we go. He can block that with the Useless Captain Kid, but we're hoping he takes it or gets cards out of hand. Those are our 2 options. I believe he does end up taking this. Let's see. Yes, he does end up taking it. And I think we're just going to attach all 3 Don and swing 8 at lead. I believe he counters out of this with 2 Frankies, if I remember correctly. Yep, 2 Furnosuke's. And we pass the turn. Looking at his board, the only thing we can be scared about right now is the rush Sanji. That's what we're kind of worried about right now. If he does play it, oh, he plays the 9 Mom. So Big Mom, this is a great card. It does heal him. I'm thinking here he does one of two things. One, he obviously heals himself. He could either send my Reiju to the bottom of my life, which would increase my chances of survival this turn, or leave it on the board. If he does, that's 3 swings, including the EGG that I have to attack. But he does end up sending that to the bottom of my life, and he does have 2 Don left over. So looking at this, I'm imagining a 6k swing, a 7k swing, and an 8k swing, while drawing a card off that Sangoro. So it looks like we have a 9k swing. It's probably going to come at my EGG. I believe we do let this go through because we have that EGG in hand. And what we're going to look to do right now is take care of his board. Because if we can get that EGG to play again, we can minus 2,000 power to something on his board and hopefully kind of whittle it down a little bit. So looking at this, he probably has a Gum Gum Giant in hand. I believe he does. Oh, he swings with the kid. That's interesting. So we are going to counter out of that. We're going to toss the Kaya. And he's going to pass to us. So looking at what kind of board we have right now, we're going to drop this EGG most likely. Oh, we're going to use the Porsche. Sorry. Porsche is great because, like I said, we get a 10 Don investment for only 3 Don, and we get a 7k and a 5k out on board. So we're going to minus 2,000 to the Sangoro. We want to make sure that this card draw is limited. We don't want him drawing all these cards. And we're going to pitch another EGG, grab another EGG back, and probably swing 5 at his 4. So what's going on in my head is if he lets this Sangoro go, we play that play that Porsche that we have in hand to play out that second EGG we have in hand and minus 2,000 to that Luffy Taro to hopefully get that off the board. Because if we minus 2,000, we'll then have 2 7k swings into a 6k body. But he does have that Gum Gum Giant and protects the Sangoro. So it's going to be harder to remove these characters from the board than it would be if he didn't have it and just let this Sangoro go. But we are just going to swing, we're probably just going to swing 7 into this 4. Or we're going to swing 8 into this 4. Because we are planning on using that Porsche. This one he's probably going to let go. It doesn't make sense to keep this out on the board. And we are going to drop this Porsche. Returning 1 Don. Going to grab that Chopper because it's a Foxy Pirate. That's always great to see. And then drop that EGG. Minus 2,000 to that Luffy Taro. And swing 7 at that 6. If he protects this, I'm not terribly worried. Because, like I said, he only has 3 attacks. Or 4 attacks right now. Not including the Trafalgar Law. He can't attack with that. But I have a good amount of counter in hand that I can counter out of at least one of these, letting me survive. And if he's going for lethal, I have 5 characters on board. That allows me to easily go for a game. This Sanji was scary. A rush character giving him 6 attacks, including that Law. He would have to invest on into it, obviously. But 6 attacks to my 3 life, I would have to counter out perfectly. He does rest my Porsche, was making it look like he's going for board. In this situation, he should have definitely gone for board here, but he goes for a 5k swing. I do want to counter out of this. Just counter out of the low one, especially with this Reiju. We can get it in our trash. And looking at this, I'm afraid he's going for board. If he removes my board, he probably wins the game, but he attaches all his Don to this Law and swings. I'm thinking about 2k'ing this, but I'm getting a little greedy here because I don't want him to go for my board. I want to keep this board. So I'm going to let him take this, making him think that I don't have any counter in hand. And in a pinch, he does have that kid that he could swing with, then I can just 2k out of that. I do get a trigger off that draw, but it draws me nothing into that Gurma Kingdom. A little bit of a brick. We are going to counter out of this 6k just while we can. And just send it, and he's going to send this 7. We could use all 3 counters, but if I use all 3 counters, he has no chance of winning the game. And he's probably going to go for my board after that. I do get a little greedy here. I should have countered out of this. If this card that is face down is not a counter card, I lose the game. Because I will not have enough counter to counter out of that 9k with 9 Mom. But I do end up pulling a Vince Smoke Sora. I was pretty confident going in, knowing that most of my cards are in counter. I would have just had to pull an Ichiji, a Judge, or a Gurma Kingdom, or an Event Searcher, which could have searched me a card. But I pulled that 2k counter and countered out of this. This was great because I now just counter out and I have a full board and he has no more swings. With 2 life and I will get 5 Don from this, it's going to be easy pickings. He did not leave a Don up for Gum Gum Giant, so I know I'm not in any worry about that. So I'm going to swing 7 at lead, either take 2 cards out of hand or take a life. I did end up taking a life, so now I'm going to swing another 7 at lead with Porsche. I want to kind of swing with these 7k, 5 power 7ks and just try and pick them off. Now I'm going to swing, I'm probably going to swing 6. Yeah, 6 with the Porsche. That will get at least either a 2k or 2 1ks out of hand, and I do believe I get 2 1ks out of hand, which puts him down to 4, and then I just swing 9. Or I was thinking about swinging 7, but then I just swing 9. He has 4 cards in hand. That would take all the cards out of his hand, and then I still have 1 5k swing left over. And he was all bricked up. So, if we look at the end right here, whatever. We'll move on to the next video. So looking at the next one, we'll do the Nami matchup. So this is a less of a meta matchup that we're gonna see. We'll save the Doflamingo one for last, but this was a very close game. I believe it came down to the very last card, but the Nami matchup is kind of rough for this deck just because you don't have a lot of large swings. You have a bunch of like mid to small range swings because of your 7Ks and 5Ks and 6Ks that you're going to swing, so that allows their counter cards to be able to kind of get rid of or nullify those attacks while also pitching cards. But if you can get down the right rush characters early, you're going to rush them out before they can even do anything. Unfortunately, I did not get any EGGs, baby EGGs, in those bunch of searching that I did. So that's a little unfortunate. That's going to throw a little wrench in my plan. As you can see, he swung with that Nami. I'm probably going to trash this law here. The pudding. Oh, I ended up trashing the Sora. Okay. We're going to grab the searcher because we just need a search. We're digging through it. And there it is. There's our Reiju. We're most likely going to grab that Reiju and just try and build cards in hand because we're going to go up 3 cards. So we're going to go from 3 to 6 and we find that EGG. So we're probably going to swing 1k. Just try and get this Nami off the board because the more you can let that card attack, the more events they get in hand. It's going to be rough. He ended up countering, but that's okay. We're just going to swing 5 at it. No way he has enough counter in hand to get out of that. Onto their turn, they just use the Sanji Pilaf and just swing at my Kaya and just get it off the board. Fair enough, and leave 2 Don up. So, looking at that, we're probably going to end up pitching that Reiju. Probably going to grab this EGG here, yep. And do another search and grab that big EGG. That's great. We're going to deploy our little EGG, just get a 7k out on board. And we're probably just going to start swinging. I believe he counters out of most of these, except for the EGG swing. But it still is a life that we've taken. Yeah, and then there's another 5k swing. Yep. One more Gum Gum Gavel. And that 7k swing will most likely take a life here. And it was not any good triggers, so that's... whew. I was definitely glad that it wasn't a trigger. We see this Kaya. Yep. Just a simple, just trash both those Impel down All-Stars. Basically a dead card in hand. You really only want that card in life. So we are going to pitch that Chopper. And it is our turn. Seeing that we don't have much that we want to play here. We do want to play this Ichiji, but he has a ton of cards in hand. I know he's set up for counters. So I do think I drop this pudding this turn. It's going to cut 2 cards out of hand and send stuff to the bottom of my deck. You see I'm contemplating between Trafalgar Law and the Charlotte Pudding. But the Trafalgar Law, it's good because it cuts their hand signs down, but it sends it to trash. In a matchup against Nami, this pudding will send those 2 cards that they're getting rid of out of their hand to their deck. So that's 2 more cards that they have to get through to win the game. I do think that this play, instead of using the Trafalgar Law, ended up winning me the game. Because if at the end of that game, that they had, I think this game I only won by 1 card in that Nami's deck. So I think if I were to trash those two, instead of sending them back, they would have still had less cards in deck than I did. Or then less cards in deck to get past that 1 card threshold. We do end up swinging 5-7-7. Simple swings. We're probably just going to see a bunch of drawing here. I believe this, I think he fills up his field this turn. I think he plays 3 Kayas, a Nami, or 2 Namis, and I think he plays 1 more Kaya. Yeah, just completely full board, pitching 2 Apices, which, I mean, what can you do? But he does only have 1 card in hand. So, seeing this, I know I just have to kind of just keep pushing. This Vinsmoke Niji is definitely going to be useful, but I don't think I use it this turn. I might use Gurmakinda to search for it, for a baby Niji, just see if I can get it out on board. I don't get one, so I'm going to grab this big Ichiji probably. Because I want to get rid of these Namis. These Namis are scary because they just let them search, they let this Nami search for any event card, any blue event card in their deck, so it really lets them fix their hand. But since they're at 1 life, I'm like, do I really need to worry about them searching for 1 or 2 event cards? They do get that Impel Down All-Stars trigger, which is unfortunate because that's just a 1k trigger, or that's a draw 2 card trigger, which basically gets them all the way down to their bottom life. So now I'm just swinging out right here. I don't think I finish them off. I think they do get 1 more turn after this, which is scary because they are only at 17 cards in deck, which is definitely doable with Nami to get all the way down to 0 cards. So I swing a 7 again. They do counter out with the Love Beam. And we swing a 7 again, getting them down to 0. But we cannot swing anymore. So we have to just hope that they can't get down to 0. And they do end up getting the Snake Dance trigger to pop my Reiju or send it back to hand, which is not great, but they have no real way of dealing with my board. They're probably searching for an event right now, trying to pad their hand a little bit, get these events in hand. They grab a Sanji Pilaf. Yep, that'll do it. That Sanji's Pilaf is going to allow them to draw 3 cards, or 2 cards, I believe, which is frustrating because that obviously gets them down in deck. They're at 11. 11 with that hand size right now. 9. Yeah, they're just digging through their deck. 7 with the Kaya. I do believe they have 1 more Kaya in hand because they bounced it back with the the Snake Dance. So they do have 1 more Kaya, so they're going to get this down to 5. Yep, there's that second Kaya, and they have 2 cards left. So we're just hoping to see no more, like, this is scary for us. That many cards in hand, 2 Dawn up, but they do end up surrendering. If we look here, the only way that they get through keeping those 2 Dawn up, passing to me, the only way that they get through those 5 cards, they have 5 cards still in their deck, they can't, because they only left 2 Dawn up, which allows them to use 2 of their Gum Gum Giant Gavels. So we're going to look at this Doflamingo game. This was a crazy game. I believe I kept this hand. It doesn't look great. We do have those 2 Nijis in hand and that Ichiji, but we do have that Kaya to draw 2, trash 2, which we're going to end up trashing those Nijis and Ichijis from our hand. Using this Perona, shuffling up, organizing the top of their deck to hopefully get Jinbeis, other good 7 Warlord cards to cheat out with their leader ability. We do draw 2, trash 2. Unfortunately, we don't find any of the babies, but we do find that Ichiji second turn off that search. Pass it over to them. We're probably just going to see a 7k swing. Oh, we're going to see the Martial D-Teach. That is a good card for this deck. Allows them to put any card on the top of their deck, as well as give 2 Rested Dawn to their leader to then cheat out with leader ability. So, yep, we're going to see that 7k. We're going to see the Gecko Moria. Interesting. That's 4-cost that Gecko Moria has been seen a lot more in these decks, but I personally don't use it in my Doflamingo deck. We are going to send this Ichiji out, and we're just going to try and get this Gecko Moria off field. Minus 2,000 is great because I can swing this 5k leader into it. I do believe he gives it to us eventually, but we just want to make sure that we manage Doflamingo's board as best as possible so that we can handle it late game when he does end up rushing with those Jinbeis and the Boas and the Laws. So going into his 5 down turn, 3 cards in hand is pretty nice for us. Doflamingo likes to have a lot of cards in hand. What I'm thinking about right now is that he's just going to load up and then just blind flip the top life, send 9 at probably my Ichiji. But in this matchup, we do want to keep this on board, so I do think I counter out. Yep, and we're going to see that Boa, which does make things a little tougher because I do have to use 1 extra card because with the Boa, you get to attach 1 rested Don to your leader, so it is going to be a 10k swing at this 7k. So I will have to use the 4 cards in hand. The Gina, the Vinsmoke Niji, and the Pudding, I believe I use. Yes, I do counter out. So we're going to use the Niji and the Pudding for that. Do think I thought I had to use the Law. I forgot Gina was a 2k. Yeah, yep, there's me checking. But so going into this turn, we're just going to deploy that stage. I think we do end up pitching the Search. We do, and unfortunately we do get a Gurma Kingdom. We don't really have much to play here. So I think I do just load up and just swing at this Boa. Like I said, we want to kind of control his board. I'm definitely thinking about if I want to swing 7 at it or if I want to swing 9 at it first to try and hopefully get it off and have a swing at lead. But we are just going to go 7 at that 6. Just control his board, make sure he can't get too big, get too wide, too fast for me. He does pitch 2 1Ks out of hand, including that Law. That Law does show some problems, especially bouncing back some of my Reijus, maybe even my Trafalgar Law blocker, and we're going to leave him at 1 card in hand. In this situation, I would like to play something, but there's really no point in it. I could have just swung 7 at or 8 at it, and he wouldn't have been able to counter, still having 1 up, but I don't have anything to play with 1, so I just swung 9. He's got 2 cards in hand. Looking at 7 Don. We could see a Jinbei play, but that would put him at 0 cards in hand. We see Gecko Moria, so he is probably going to grab this Boa Hancock back. Place it on top probably with the Teach and play it out. That would give you an 8k swing at probably my Ichiji. I do believe he ends up swinging at this Ichiji eventually, but I don't believe it's with 10. I think it is with 9. I think he ends up playing a Jinbei out instead of the Boa Hancock that he grabbed from the trash with the Gecko Moria. Yes, he does swing 9. I don't have the counter in hand, and he does play that. He actually plays that Edward Weevil to draw a card. So we just let it go. We don't have enough counter for it. We are just going to search that Reiju. Great for us because we just get to draw some cards. And we do find the Niji. This Niji is going to be very helpful in this game because it will just allow us to send 4Ks back. But I do believe we KO the Teach here because we can just swing 7 at this Weevil, either taking 2 cards out of hand or a 2k out of hand. But that's still, he lets it go through, and we have a 5k and a 6k out on board. I still am a little scared of a Law here. A Law here will allow you to bounce back the Perona while also bouncing back the Reiju back to my hand, limiting the amount of characters that I have on field. So looking at this, waiting to see what he does. Jinbei is obviously always in my mind here. Being able to play another 4-cost Warlord's character is pretty scary, but I do think being at where I am now, seeing this Judge in hand, I believe I have 5 Don out, so I can't play it next turn, but this is where that Tony Chopper I'm telling you about is going to come in handy. He does end up playing that Jinbei, playing out the Boa Hancock. That blocker's scary, but like I said, we do have the ability to use Niji to bounce it back to hand if needed. So Boa's rearranging and attaches a Don to leader. We are just probably going to see some brute swings here. So we're going to see 5 at lead. I do end up countering out of this with the Pudding. And I am planning on taking this one. I don't have enough counter to counter out, so we are going to take this one, putting me down to 2. Now, in this situation, I do look I look pretty rough. It does not look like I'm going to survive the next turn, just based on how many swings he'll have on board, but I do manage to get out of it. I think I swing 5 at this Gecko Moria. He doesn't have any cards in hand. Has to just let it go. Or block it with that Boa Hancock, which I will then swing into next turn to try and get rid of it. If he blocked there, I would have expended more attacks, but I get rid of 2 of his characters, which, like I said, being at 2 health, he has 4 swings. So he could easily have killed me if I didn't do what I do here. He doesn't take that, like I said, no life in hand, and this would have to be a 2k to counter out of this, so he's probably going to take this too. I think in this situation I just play down 2 blockers here. Oh no, I play the Reiju to try and pad my hand. So I will draw 3 cards off of this. Unfortunately, not the best draws. I draw 2 bricks and a 2k, leaving me at 7k. So had he done some Don math correctly, I think he probably would have taken this. I think if he just if he made a bunch of 8k swings, I think he would have taken it, depending on what my life was. But he does use the Sengoku to draw that Gecko Moria. That Gecko Moria is the one from the starter deck that lets you grab one back from trash. This is a little bit of a controversial decision, but I do counter out of this. Investing that swing into my board, A, means that he cannot kill me this turn. He cannot finish me off this turn. And B, being able to save this allows me to hopefully divert more attacks to my board rather than my life, and kind of stay at that 2 life threshold. We do let him take that Niji. We didn't have enough counter in hand to deal with it, and we are going to let him take this Reiju. We can get them back from trash, and I don't think we want to invest our blocker this early on in the game. We see a 4 for a Jinbei, and I believe we see the Gecko Moria to grab something back. If it makes any sense to me, he's probably going to grab back either a 2k counter or the Boa Hancock, but I do actually think he grabs the Law, because that Law is going to be helpful in bouncing my Law back to my hand. He does grab that starter deck 17 Law. So we do end up top decking a Vinsmoke Ichiji. That is great for us because it allows us to kind of manage his board, being able to subtract power from these 6k characters and swing 5s into 4s is amazing for us. So I do think we drop this Judge. We did make a little bit of a misplay here if we want to stop for a second. Judge allows us to grab all of these characters back from our trash, so we'll be able to grab a max of 3. The baby Ichiji, the baby Niji, and the baby Reiju. What I should have done first was swing 5k at lead with this Reiju, because since I'm playing characters, I will have to remove a character from the board to fill out all 3 of those spots, and I want to be able to Don minus and get those abilities. So swinging 5k first would have maximized the amount of swings that I could have this turn, but nonetheless, I still do end up taking a very good turn and hindering this Doflamingo very much. So like I said, we're going to grab back the Ichiji, the Niji to remove the Kaya. This is me realizing that now I should have swung with the Reiju, and we are just going to send the Reiju back to our trash, play it back by our baby. So we're going to do that right now. Drawing 2 cards for us. The Niji, what we're going to do here is we're going to bounce back something to hand. I'm deciding between the Jinbei and the Moria. I think in this situation I chose the Jinbei just because it's a 1k counter. It's smarter to send back because I am going to be planning on swinging at these 6k bodies with my Ichijis and with my leaders, so it minimizes the amount that I want to get rid of. I do think I end up minusing on the Gecko so that I can swing 7k with my leader at the Boa. I kind of got a little greedy there, but I will be able to get it. I think I should have put minus 2,000 on the Boa Hancock and swung 7 at the Gecko Moria, because that does leave a blocker up if he counters out of this. I don't believe he does. I believe he lets it go. So, yep, he does let it go, and then we're going to swing 5 at his 4. This makes me think that he doesn't have any counter in hand, so he's probably looking at a couple Weevils, a couple of other stuff, or he just lets it go for fun for some reason. But now we have a full board state with only 3 characters on his board, good amount of counter in hand, and a blocker. We do have to worry about that law, obviously, for popping that blocker and sending it back to hand, as we see right there. He sends my law back to hand, but it is another 1k counter in hand, and Doflamingo doesn't like to make many big swings, so that kind of nullifies the blocker effect that I just lost on my field. So yeah, we are going to see that 5k, so we're just going to use that law. It basically just blocked, didn't it? And we're going to see another 5k. We do use this. I think we end up using this EGG here, yes, because with our board state right now, we can push for game pretty easily, but we do see a boa. This boa is very scary because that means we can't push for game next turn. We only have 5 swings with 3 life, and he'll definitely be able to counter out of 1 and block 1. And if he takes out this EGG, it's even scarier. So he is going to swing 7 here. I'm trying to remember I think he swings it at my Ichiji, and he is going to blind flip this. So we just have to hope that he doesn't find a Jinbei, or a Jinbei would be pretty bad because he could play out that law. So he does find the Weevil, allowing him to draw a card. So we take this. So he does swing at lead. Top decking another Ichiji is amazing. So looking at this, we're going to use this Niji. We're going to bounce this Boa Hancock back to hand. Just get that blocker off the board. And now looking at this, we have 5 swings. He has 4 cards in hand. So we're going to swing 5 at lead. Just to test the waters. You either get a 1k out of hand, or maybe even a 2k if he has no cards in hand. We do get a 1k, or take a life. I do believe we swing 7 here with the Niji. So we are going to go for board here. Our hand is pretty stacked in terms of counters, so going for board here instead of life is definitely a smart decision. We are just hoping to get the entire board, so hopefully this 5k swing that we're going to send at Gecko Moria is going to hit. And we're just trying to play defensive right now. This 1 life is definitely a little bit worrying just because of how Doflamingo plays. He does have a consistent 2 attack, so we'll have a Jinbei attack and a Doflamingo attack, and that will be 2 10k swings. We will be able to counter out of 1, though, so that's what we're thinking right now. And I think we do end up swinging 8, and we're probably going to actually drop this Tony Chopper here in place of the Reiju. So we're going to try and get this Jinbei off the field. If he had a 2k, 1k in hand, which I don't think he did because we know he has the law in hand. So that's a 1k. So the likeliness that he has another 2k is pretty scarce. And we do play this chopper to prevent the 10k swing. So just waiting to see what he does. I do believe he plays down the law to bounce this chopper. Yep. So he bounces the chopper back to hand. And now I'm a little afraid of an AK swing. I will be able to counter out of it, but going through my mind, that's probably what he's going to play. But I do think he does play the Boa Hancock blocker, which is a little frustrating to deal with my current board state. But I do think I managed to push through when he does play that. Yeah, so we do see the Boa Hancock blocker. Attaches all 3 Don. Is probably going to swing 8 at my Niji. Yep. We do counter out of this. We just want to keep our board. Because if we can just keep our board state, we're going to have 5 swings at his 3 life with 1 blocker, and he only has 2 cards in hand. Plus, if we have another Ichiji in hand, so we do have a chance at 6 swings. So the smartest play here is to just swing 7s. That's the golden number. But we are going to play out this Porsche. So this, like I said, we're just playing it to conserve as much Don as possible. So that keeps us 1 Don ahead while also being able to play this EGG for 3 Don. While also removing the ability to use 4 Don instead of 3 with the Porsche. So we're just going to swing 7 at lead with that rush character that we just played down. He's probably going to take this. He wants to get cards in hand to hopefully counter out. And he does take it. And we're probably just going to swing 7 again. Oh, we're going to swing 7 with lead. In this point, that might have been a little bit of a mistake because we do have to remember that Doflamingo does run Gravity Blade, which pops a 5k on my board, or a 5 cost on my board. So that was probably a little mistake. We probably wanted to swing with these Nijis first, but we do end up doing that. And we swing another 7. So now we're out of Gravity Blade worries, so we're hopefully don't get any of those triggers. And he does 2k, 1k this. We are going to send... Attaching that Don probably isn't the smartest play, but it is going to take that life. And we're going to swing here, and he is going to block with this. We're forcing him to block. So this last swing was crucial because forcing him to block here makes it so he only has 2 swings. With 10 Don, he'll be able to make 2 10k swings. We have more than enough counter to counter out of a 10k swing, but we do not have more than enough to counter out of 2 7k swings and an 8k and survive, depending on what this last life was. So being able to get rid of that blocker is crucial to survivability for this deck. I do believe he just ends up rolling the dice and swinging 2 10k swings. I think we end up taking this one to taunt him a little bit to do the next 10k swing, making him think that we don't have that much counter in hand. But waiting for him to attach this last Don, I believe. I think he is going to swing 10. Yep, swings 10 at lead, and we take this. And it's a Choni Show Chopper, so that's another 1k counter in hand. And he is going to attach all 5 Don to the Jinbei and swing 10 at life. I do counter out of this with the Gina, the Sora, and use that last Kaya to counter out. And he has nothing else to do, so he's going to pass to me, and I should have game here. It's basically won. We just attach all our Don to Judge here and swing 16 at lead. Has no way to counter out. And he's just taking his sweet time. But yeah, so that is our Reiju deck. It was the very first deck that I ever played. It is how I got into One Piece, the game. I've tweaked around with it. I messed around with it. This deck went 4-0 at a lot of locals that I've been to. And I'm very confident that it is a meta killer deck. I'm hoping that it will get better as time goes on with the addition of the new Searcher Sanji and the new event card that just got released for the EB. I'm hoping to see maybe a Sanji card being added to the roster of Reijus and the Vinsmoke family. But yeah, thank you for watching. It's my very first YouTube video, so if you wouldn't mind dropping a like, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Signing out.